Welcome to a special edition of Sporty News where we look back at the highlights of the tennis season. To kick off this special edition, the surprise contender early on in the 2011 season was Chinese player Li Na. Before 2011, she had never got farther than a Grand Slam quarterfinal, and yet in January she reached the final round of the Australian Open. She lost against Belgian player Kim Clijsters in 3 sets. Li Na got her second chance in June on the clay court of the French Open, and this time she didn't let victory slip through her fingers. At 29, Li Na became the first Asian player to win a Grand Slam tournament. And here's a little inside info. Just before the French Open, she fired her coach, who also happens to be her husband. A smart move, but don't worry about her couple. It's as strong as ever. Jiang Shan is still by her side as her husband and her #1 fan. Li Na has a real temper. She's an unusual player, almost a rebel with a huge following on the circuit. Colorful hair, a tattoo on her shoulder blade, a far cry from her fellow Chinese countrywomen. She's in fact become a huge star. Her semi-final against Maria Sharapova was watched by over 65 million Chinese viewers. He's the man of the year. We mean Novak Djokovic, of course. The Serbian dominated the season body and soul, winning 10 tournaments including 3 Grand Slam, 70 victories and only 6 losses. He won over $11 million in prize money. Who can top that? Nobody. His year has been exceptional. But in addition to being the best player of the day, Novak Djokovic is also a real clown off the courts. The tennis player has been getting a kick out of imitating his circuit colleagues. And you'd think that becoming the world #1 would calm him down, but much the contrary. Just before the US Open, Djokovic donned his best blonde wig to imitate Maria Sharapova. Every year at the Basel tournament in Switzerland, he arrives on the court wearing a mask. It does take place during Halloween after all. This year, his fans chose the mask via Twitter and Facebook. Novak Djokovic didn't leave much for his 2 big rivals, Rafael Nadal and Roger Federer. The Spaniard and the Swiss player have been the leaders of the world tennis circuit for years, but 2011 will go down as a bad year for both champions. Nadal lost his title as world #1, and although he managed to salvage his title at the French Open, he wasn't the powerhouse he usually is on its surface. The clay court king was powerless against Djokovic during the Madrid and Rome finals. Same story on the grass court of Wimbledon and on the hard court at the US Open. Not as confident or as motivated as usual, the Mallorca native wasn't on top of his game in the latter half of the season, contrary to Roger Federer, who seemed back in business. The Swiss player won 3 major tournaments in a row. The Swiss indoors, the ATP World Tour Masters 1000 in Paris, and the Barclays ATP World Tours final in London. Enough to forget the tennis legend's catastrophic beginning of season. No Grand Slam victories, only 1 final at the French Open, a bit disappointing for a champion with 16 Grand Slam titles under his belt. But Federer and Nadal are both huge champions, and they know what to do to beat Djokovic in 2012. While the men's circuit captivated the world thanks to its 3 exceptional champions whose personalities are as varied as they are lovable, the same can't be said of the girls' circuit. No real leaders, talented young things whose performances remain inconsistent. Luckily, there's Caroline. The world #1 has a knack for winning over the public. She found a boyfriend who's a champion just like her, Irish golfer Rory McIlroy. And since the Dane is hooked to social networking sites, not a day goes by without her sharing the most intimate details of her busy life on Twitter. Among the juiciest tweets, a private discussion with the Williams sisters about her relationship with Rory. And to end the season, the world #1 completely let her hair down. During an exhibition match in Slovakia alongside Dominika Cibulková, the Dane danced the kuduro to the sound of Don Omari's hit. The problem with Caroline is that she doesn't have the best moves. And when she starts to dance, there's no stopping her. At least not winning a single Grand Slam title in 2011 hasn't ruined her spirits. Trace Sports was on the lookout for the Williams sisters during this 2011 season. Injured and demotivated, Serena and Venus appeared very briefly on the circuit. The elder, Venus, only played in 4 tournaments and didn't win a single one, a season best forgotten. As for Serena, she started 2011 the same way she ended 2010, with a foot injury. After 2 operations, she hoped to make her comeback at the French Open, but fate was against her. In March, the younger Williams sister was hospitalized for a nearly fatal pulmonary embolism. She survived and returned to the courts mid-June, a brilliant comeback. Out of her 6 matches, Serena won 2. Her US Open performance was not quite as stellar since she lost her final against Samantha Stosur. And Serena Williams' private life is no picnic either. Her love story with rapper Common is over. This summer, a rumor linked her to another rapper, the Canadian Drake. He had cheered her on during a match in Toronto, but the press got all revved up for nothing. The two are only friends. When it rains, it pours. Here's hoping things look up for the Williams sisters in 2012.